This video is a continuation of the string notebook and will describe string indexing. So in the previous section, we discussed how you define a string, and now we're going to look at how you can index or access the individual elements of a string. So let's start with the string Python, and let's bind it to the variable word. Now, if we wanted to access the first element from the string, we would write the string variable name, followed by square brackets containing an integer. In Python, all indices begin at 0, so the first element in the string has index 0. And so you see running this code block returns capital P. That's the first element from the string Python. Now, if we wanted the second element from the string, we use index 1. The index of the last element in the string would be the length of the string minus 1, or 5 in this case, since there are 6 characters in this string. Now, I should point out here that unlike other languages like C or C++, Python doesn't have a special character class, and instead all characters are really strings of length 1. So all the outputs we see here are really strings and not characters as they would be in, say, other languages. Now, if we try to use an index that would point beyond the end of the string, an index error exception is raised. And we'll talk about exceptions in a later section, but at this point, all you need to know is that the interpreter is going to halt execution unless this exception is handled by some means. And again, we'll talk about that later. But it's because of this, we really do need to take care to only use valid indices when indexing. So how do we determine which indices are valid? Well, one way to do that is to use the length function, or len, which will return the number of items in an object. So if I type len and pass the word as an argument and run this block, we get the output 6, which is the number of characters in our string. The function allows us to determine the valid range of indices for a given string and can help prevent this sort of index error that we saw before. Now, in all the examples here, I've used positive integers to index our string. Python actually supports the use of negative indices as well. Positive indices, as we said, start with 0, referring to the first character in the string, and go up to the length minus 1 for the last character in the string. Negative indices go in the opposite direction. They start with minus 1, which refers to the last character in the string, and go until minus the length of the string, referring to the first character. So again, entering word minus 1 returns n, which is the last character in our string Python. And again, word at minus 6 returns the first character, p, in our string Python. Now, if we attempt to use negative index that is out of range, once again, we see that we get the same index error that we saw before.